The moment where my eyes dilated, I was falling into this tunnel. I couldn't communicate anymore. I had no idea what happened. We didn't get clear answers on that. The only reason I didn't go to ICU that moment was because I was able to have some control. When they lift your hand and they drop it, I was able to have some control with my muscles as it went down. Like, it didn't just flop down. He made it very clear if her hand would have flopped down with the way she looks and she can't communicate, ICU in a second. But that gave him hope that my hand dropped down, and about 3 minutes went by and they're still I'm just seeing bodies everywhere, and Rex is still like in my face and saying, hang on, and you're not leaving me, and Nelle will be okay, and and so I started hearing him more clearly, and then there I was, and I said, you're too loud, Rex. And that made the whole room just laugh, and they were I got told off by every nurse in there. You never do that again. Don't scare us again. Ugh.
Oh, I felt relief at that point.
Yeah, and they were like, let her yell at let her be. And Rex goes, I'll take it. I'll take any of her.
Exactly.
And it was sweet because there was a girl and her mom across the hall, and she told Rex when we left the hospital, they pulled him in. He was saying bye, and they pulled him. She said, I heard how much you loved your wife the whole time, and she said, I wish I had someone like that. So men, treat your wives well, especially in situations that are extremely hard on you. And wives, vice versa. Just treat each other well. There's always somebody that really is wishing they had that. And Rex I think his first response was, oh, I'm sorry, because obviously they all heard. But you kind of don't care when you're trying to get somebody to live. But she was like, no, it was so beautiful. Her and her mom thoroughly enjoyed hearing a couple love each other that much, in your worst moments too. And there was some other times in that stay that Rex thought he'd lose me, and so that there was a silver lining to almost dying and dealing with that, and that was that I was not thinking of my tumor results at all. And I was still in the hospital when we got the results, and I knew it was the doctor when Rex's face changed. That was the first time I thought about it, really, and I was like, oh no, that's right, it's been 4 days. And he, I think, rushed it too, like pushed him. And he also said, I didn't fully trust when they said, we cannot find cancer. We cannot. And so this doctor that goes around the world, he does so much humanitarian work, he does so much. And he's got, they're massive shoes to fill. And he takes his time because he didn't trust that they couldn't see one cancer cell. He took his time to go in those labs and look for himself before he called. And he just wasn't comfortable until he could see for himself. And he said, I don't know how, I don't understand it, there's not any cancer. And so that was tumor number 2, which they were like, we thought this would be, but regardless of which one, their message, that we were told that this is, we'll give it 5 years, but it's so rare to get a third.
Yeah.
Almost
we thought we were going to maybe be in the clear at that point.
Yeah, almost like that's not, don't worry about it. Well, I didn't quite get to 5 years. I think it was 4.5. I always like to draw it out too, like, ooh, right before they're like, finally. Get another MRI, because I'm just, requesting one, like I just, and he we get an appointment very, very quickly whenever there's a tumor, and I remember he came in, looks at me, and said, "I thought I told you never to come back." I'm like, why?
Getting in trouble again.
Not getting the message, apparently.
Yeah.
I'll turn that down. Yeah, always in trouble. He asked me if this team of students can come in. Of course. Don't ask me anymore. They're always welcome. I love it. I love when they can learn. He looks at it again, says, "This is even different than the first two." So, what are you going to do? You know how people say, I'm an overachiever, just in the wrong. I don't know.
And I remember with the trauma that I went through with the second particularly, I remember how scared I was.
Yeah.
The third one.
Yeah, because we were told.
I was thinking, I could lose her, and that could be.
Yeah.
You know, so it was really.
So
had my own.
So knowing it came back a third time.
Yeah.
Was you just? I'm sure you're just. At that point, the second tumor on, I'd spent so much time in fear and so much time giving my life away to that I'd had it. I'd had enough times where, okay, you came close to death. Well, okay, but I didn't die. And so what you guys see is someone who's just been through it a long time, and you just decide that's enough. You're not going to take any more of my life. And even though my pain has gotten worse, I live more and harder and more true, and with just unapologetically me, and I'm discovering me, and reconnecting with that little girl that I just kind of put away for a long time, and and loving it. And I'll touch on that again at the end of this because it's important. But for those of you that ask, well, how are you there? Well, it takes time, and it takes effort, it takes faith, and it takes time and effort and faith again, time and effort and faith again, and you build and you build and you build. And I know that's not the popular answer, but that's it. That's what it takes. And it takes you deciding to allow that to happen again and again and again until you're there. And it's never going to be you're there completely in this arrival. I know my suffering's not done. I know that I'm still in a human body that's very, very confused and very in a suffering state. And I know that other things can happen besides what I have been diagnosed with. But the third tumor looked even more different. And it was complicated because now I have a ton of scar tissue, and it's scar tissue that is like cement, and my nerves are weaved all throughout that. And so you can imagine what that's doing. And that surgery went better. No adrenal, and they were prepared. I think they had 2 anesthesiologists that time. They had the steroids so that they could really hit it quick. And but my adrenals handled it well, and I was able to go home that night. And it was very close to Christmas. And I just kept like, that's a Christmas miracle. I didn't have to go to the hospital, and I got a big patch on my eye again. My eye I don't even look like me, but who the heck cares, And that time, he said, I'm sending... Well, first of all, before the end of that appointment, when he said, what are you doing here again? I'm sick of it. Rex said, is this in the rare to the point to where you guys are now watching? And he said, yes, we're now learning from her. Because we've stepped into a third tumor, which we do not normally see with this type of tumor. And we're watching and learning, and but that tumor he sent to the head pathologist at U of U, and he didn't feel comfortable sending it to outside labs. And the U of U is just right next to the Moran, and they knew each other well. And he had that for almost 2 weeks. That's how hard they searched.
It looked
And
different.
every one of them looked different. But Patel just wasn't comfortable with anyone
His
else
own,
other
yeah.
than the head with
Yep.
this one. And he had it more than twice as long. And again, complete shock. There's no cancer.
No.
We do not, they still don't know. It's just different. But after that, so I just this year was able to, we are 4 years out, a little more than, and I had my MRI, and he said, I feel comfortable saying we do not need any more MRIs. And I know to take all that with a grain of salt, and I know that,
Yeah.
but the weirdest thing happened. I wanted to celebrate immediately. Like, it was a 20-year span of tumors and of wondering and of getting strong and getting ready to face it again and again and again and however many times. And having hard talks with our little family, our kids. And he says, I don't think we need any more MRIs. Nothing has changed at all for several years after this last tumor. But what happened was I start crying. I'm confused. I realized I needed to grieve my tumors. And I'm like, who in the hell grieves their tumors? Like, what's wrong with it? But they taught me more and got me closer to my maker than anything. They made me tough, and they made me look at hard things. And when you look at hard things and you have to go through tough shit, it's easier to see miracles. And it's easier to see joy, and it's easier to recognize light, and it's easier to appreciate every moment. And so I still don't want you back, tumors, but I miss them. Yeah. Yeah. It felt like the truest friends had left. So I had to take that week, like, yay, and everybody was yay, and I wanted to celebrate with them, and as soon as I would hang up or get off the message, I just would need to cry and grieve, or just be in deep, deep gratitude. And I know that's hard. That's easier to say than to do, right? And when I'm speaking about all of you, whatever's causing your suffering, whatever's causing your grief, it's also your friend, if you choose to see it that way. Because it's going to push you in ways that none of us humans dare to do. And it knows how much you need and how much you can take and how far to push. You know, God knows. And I don't even remember the original question. I think we're just going through my tumors, and right now I'm free of them. I just had a normal my normal eye visit, regular, and they were able to look in the back of the eyes. That's how we caught the third one. I wasn't feeling right, and they took a picture of the back of one of my eyes. And I'm telling you guys this so that, you know, if you ever see something like this, if there's pressure on the back of your eye, you'll see perfect little lines, they're ripples, like in water. And that's what they seen, and they're like, that's not good. And for me, they knew that's your tumor. And anyway, I just had one a little over a month ago, my appointment,
Mhm.
and my pressure on my eyes is within normal, and the back of my eyes are smooth and beautiful, and nothing going on, and just normal. This pain will always make me wonder because it's right there, right? And I only have a fraction of my lacrimal gland left after 3 tumors, but it's working, and it's working overtime to kind of match this eye, and I'm proud of it. I'm proud of how my body's healed, and that's the space we're in.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, and I'm sure that people that follow us can relate with this. That was like a section of chapters,
Yes.
and you think that, and for some people maybe it is that's largely kind of the closure of it, and you go for maybe in a majority of the rest of your life with maybe good health or whatever.
Yeah.
Little did we know that even though we wouldn't be dealing with tumors anymore, you were, and there was pain associated with that. You started experiencing not just in the form of migraines, but head and nerve,
Yes.
neck pain kind of stuff.
Even
and,
before the third surgery.
and so we had to try to look into how what to do about that so that we can kind of
Yeah.
manage that. So we went through a pain management company, and they started recommending some other things, and that ended up making it
Yeah,
worse. Talk a little
I'll
bit
get
about
it.
that.
Yeah, I will. First of all, I wait. And if I don't want you to know I'm in pain, you won't know. And that's hurt me more than anything, more than it's ever helped the situation. But I've always done it with a really good intention on trying to make sure, because I've seen those faces, and I know that you guys have too, and it's it's brutal. It's worse than our own pain. It's worse than the pain we experience.
The react.
Because when we're seeing people with confusion and pain, and why can't you give me a tool to help, God? And what is this? And how cruel are you, God? And I can't. And so, and then you just, again, when you're someone who gives a damn about somebody's experience as much as I do, I drive my health right into the ground before I let you in on that I'm suffering greatly. And I damn near did.
Yeah. Because you hit it really.
Yeah. Yeah, if Rex wouldn't
really
even know.
well. I mean, like,
if I didn't want Rex to know, and he knows, he's lived with me for almost 28 years. He if I don't want you to know, you won't know. But I'm trying to do better, being authentic and realizing and giving credit to those who love us, that it's okay and they're strong enough.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
even if it's painful, that they may be able to grow and learn too, and that they want to be serving you, even if it can't be physically around you. I'm in a unique space again, because when my family's around, we love to talk and laugh harder. And every part of my face. So when I smile and I laugh, or even wink, sometimes I just wink, a simple wink, and it will shoot pain. Crying, or so y'all know we can, and we do a lot on the lives, and it just, when you're interacting with people, right, and it's 90% this, a lot, or it should be, largely. It's hard to have people come to my home, because I know that I'm going to need to do that, at least, if not partially hide what I'm going through. But I'm at least obviously going to need to interact. I'm not going to invite them in for them to watch me rock back and forth and breathe hard, and like, I'm going to get through this and cry, and so sometimes that has felt like, I'm sure, to my family and my friends and my loved ones, they've been kicked to the curb, I do try to let them know through messages and however else I can love on them, that I love you and it does not mean this. And please don't ever think that. It's a set of circumstances that are extremely hard, and when anything in my neck or head or face can trigger some nerves, it can trigger something that will last for days. And I mean hell on earth for days. And so I have to be prepared in that I have to save some of my treatment and medication, because like many of you are, there's an under treatment going on. And so I have to say, okay, this is event out of all the events, and that's another layer of difficulty. You want to beat everything, and I was somebody that I rarely missed anything on both sides of our family or with friends, and I have to now be so picky, and I have to prepare for me last minute changing and that stinks, right, for people, because they're like, let us know, don't wait last minute. And I'm not last minute because why? I'm pushing myself to last minute, and then I have to call it like an hour or two before and say, I can't. Yeah. And so that's another level of crap for them, but it's not anything that I decided, and it's not anything, I'm going through it, and I'm living it, and this is my life, and I'm trying my best, and I'm learning to let that go as more often, and trust again that everybody's going to be understanding, and they know. And if they don't, that's they need to find out what's going on with me. They can go read it in a book. They can go online. There's Google. You can get a general idea of what I'm going through. Or you can just simply ask me, But I need to trust them either way, that they can take care of what's going on in themselves. And
that just goes to show that there are different reasons why people keep things in. Sometimes it might be because of embarrassment or shame, or fear of stigma. Yes. You're talking about the concern that you have on loved ones and not wanting that to cause a burden or an impact. And so hopefully that rings true with all of you, and that there's different reasons, all of which can be better and more healthily coped with if we do open up about them and talk about them and share them.
Right, but realize some of them will not want to open up. Yeah. Some will not care about your diagnosis, and that's their problem. They obviously need to go through something, and they need to mature themselves, and it is not lost on us that we are probably the hardest to click on, in TikTok. This isn't the fun bouncy house with pretty, you're beautiful, but you know what I mean, pretty made up people, and who still have their bodies very toned. And because, look, if you're very, very chronically ill, things are going to come with it, and that means your muscles are going to get softer, your body's going to get softer usually, or you're losing weight, but a lot of deterioration of muscle or muscle and bone. I've got decent deterioration in my shoulder, and a lot of teeth problems, the diagnosis itself and what it brings is just one slice. There's a reason they're called warriors. There's a reason I call them my angels and heroes, because they are. And that includes the ones that have chose to move on. And I don't view them any less. You're just all loved and respected the same. But yeah, don't miss out on these people's lives just because it's hard to look at.
we started entering into kind of a different chapter in terms of the impact that these tumors had on your body, and realizing that we were very much not out of the woods, and it started introducing just a world of things that you'd have to be dealing with that's even still present today. So talk to us a little bit about what that looked like as you started pursuing solutions with pain management. What diagnosis did you get, etc.
Okay, so this is still, then this is one of those reasons why I took time and wondered, should I talk about this? And we're still traveling down this path, right? And there's some pain points in it. I don't have a solid ending or a solid solution. Pain management started years ago. Really suffering to the point where I was not functioning very much. And so over the years, I think 4 or 5 pain management, and the first pain management is right when we kind of were really, and I'm just touching barely on some very sensitive things because they are sensitive. I'm right in the middle of it, but I want to touch on it because it's so important. And it's one of the reasons we need to band together right now more than ever. So my first pain management was right when there was a beauty about it in that they just wanted the suffering to not suffer. And when I say suffering, the ones that are really going out of their way to get help. And you can tell pretty easily who's really suffering and who's coming to get prescriptions, okay? But it was also a time where Oxycontin was on the market, and they were much more loose with things, and it just was, a little out of control. But I still feel like overall they're being responsible. Where they really unintentionally hurt me was they assumed I would be like everyone else. And they hadn't heard of CRPS. I hadn't heard of CRPS. They're still trying to figure out what the hell is going on with me. And so I was given a lot of promises. 100% success rate. We're going to go in and we're going to burn the hell out of these nerves in your upper spine and on both sides. And man, that first pain management, people were coming in, and I've seen them, their lives were changing, and I remember crying in front of him, being like, okay. And still to this day, I know he's an angel, and I know that he was doing what he really believed in. It's just things went wrong, and it will usually do with me. So I let him know, okay, that's fine. I will try. I was one of those, listen to your doctor, do exactly what they say, still am. The only difference is I'm much more cautious and I know what to say no to. But before that I was, what, you want to do what procedure? Okay, I'll trust you. But I said, you need to know, because they told me that if I have a hard time waking up, that might be a serious problem that you got to address quick. It's not much time, so they were ready for that, and it was going to be one procedure the one morning and then the other next morning. And the first one went good. I didn't wake up during the procedure as they burned those nerves, but I struggled waking up. So that scared them some. And so the next morning, they didn't, I don't know if they told me before or after the procedure, but they gave me a little less of the anesthesia because of that. And so I completely understand why they did. It just backfired in the even though you're strapped down on your stomach, because they have to be so precise. I woke up right in the middle of a nerve being burned, and I remember screaming, but I didn't realize it was so loud that my in-laws heard it at the other end of the building. And I don't care how strapped down you are when you wake up and you feel that kind of pain. And he had tested my nerves the week before, and he was like, I cannot believe how much you can take. He was putting needles right in the nerve, kind of doing that pre-testing, and I didn't move. But when you wake up, it's just a natural body response, right? So my body jerked.
Yeah.
And
flinching.
I was fully awake, and so I'm hearing them now. And they're realizing, oh. And they had one more nerve to do, so I remember it was a pause, and I could just feel in the room that they were like, bleep, what do we do? And he just was like, finish it. And I remember telling myself, you did it before, didn't have heat, but here we go. Yeah. He says, there's one more, finish it. And they did, and we all did. Yeah, I was a part of that. I hung on, and I remember whatever bars or whatever, I just clenched and just, and we finished it. And I thought, oh, I did it. Like, it's going to change. And was still on meds. He'd switched some things up. And I had a very, very scary reaction to one of them, which kind of scared him. But then for 3-4 weeks, every week I'd go back to him. And the reason I was seeing him so often is because every time I went into him, I was sobbing. Yeah. And I was like, the pain's uncontrollable. Anything.
Suffering, I think that period of time was some of the worst suffering I've seen you be in.
Yeah, it was just weeks. Went on for weeks. And then every time I seen him, he had less answers, and he was more confused, and he was more frazzled, and this doesn't make sense. I had 100%. Yeah. And the last time I seen him, he's like, I don't know. And that was the first time I seen a professional just come undone. Like, I'm human too. And then we went to call him a couple days later, and he's gone.
Yeah.
Gone.
You got to practice.
He left. He even had his employees saying, we don't know what we're doing. We're just trying to...
Yeah, they said that he had his own medical conditions, that he had to go on a leave.
But that didn't make sense.
Everything just shut down, so that we did...
and the timing was just very odd, and maybe he did, and my situation triggered a lot of... But when I say gone, it was he's there, and then he wasn't. And his employees were still trying to close the office down for the next month.
Answer phones, yeah. Are we going to even collect?
Or trying to take payments, or
I think they even
had to cancel appointments.
All the debt, because people, they just.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
And I don't want to speculate on anything else.
Of what happened. Yeah.
But whenever I speak about this doctor, I do with so much love in my heart, because I know when he looked at me, he just was so full of pride and I'm going to help you.
Yeah.
And it was so pure, and I don't blame him.
Yeah.
Things happen. I think we're too quick to blame doctors, and there are some doctors. They're in the business for the wrong reason, and they're just like cattle. Let's do another procedure, because they can get more money that way. So I went to another, because I kind of felt like as soon as I said I've been to 4 or 5 pain management. Yeah, I know what some of you thinking before I explain it. Right?
Yeah.
No. the doctor left on me.
Yeah.
I didn't.
We're not like being
Yeah.
like, well, I don't like you, I don't like
So-
you, or I'm jumping, trying to find
Yeah.
this, yeah, or whatever.
Okay, so I'm trying to get this next one in order because I think I went to another pain management. Did I go to the hospital before Rosenthal or no?
Yeah, because we had
Okay.
we had all the hospital
So,
done.
oh yes, because because that's when I was on OxyContin
Yeah.
and a whole. That's the only one I'm going to mention because that's should be non-existent.
Yeah, that's bad
So
stuff.
I knew I'm in trouble. I've been put on a load of heavy stuff, and I don't even know what my pain is anymore. Because
Yeah.
I felt like I was 90 years old. Rex had to get me up and help me to the restroom every single morning. I could not walk.
Well, and there was just one time where you're just like I mean, you would. We're not talking aching, pain
No,
out
yeah,
of it.
no.
We're
Uh-huh.
talking wailing
Yeah.
in the bed
Yeah.
beside yourself.
Not one time. This was... And then when he'd leave for work, he knew I was back in bed.
Yeah.
So he'd get me up to the restroom. Do you need anything to eat? Do you even feel like eating? And I told Rex, I'm not okay with this. I'm not. This is not. And I'm not going to die like this. Because I felt like I was going...
Yeah.
Well, I was.
Yeah.
So, he says, okay. And I had to make some really brave decisions because these are medications I was put on and I took exactly how I was told to and always have. So Rex says, okay, well, let's get on the phone on the nurse's hotline, and if your insurance has that, use it. They're amazing. And they helped us find. I said, well, what is she looking for? I said, well, I need to just go until I'm safely off. And so they found me a place, and it was the next day or 2 days, 2 days max. I was walking into a rehab hospital here in Utah, and I was the only one there that was going for what I was prescribed for. But I wasn't treated any different. I got kind of that strip search and got wires taken out and strings taken off, and for kind of suicide watch type stuff, and they had to search me to make sure my bags, me, my body, everything, that I wasn't bringing anything in, and I wasn't quite prepared for that. I was locked behind 3 doors as we went through the building, and then the elevator's locked as well. That started my journey with detoxing off these meds, and that I think was very brave decision on my part and my family's part. It was scary as hell, but I needed to find out where my baseline pain was again. If you're needing that as well, I suggest you seeing what your insurance can help you with, because it's not something that you should be playing with yourself, and doctors make mistakes.
Well, and to work with what we have, I mean, ideally, you'd have a society where there was maybe institutions that were set up for people that were abusing but still needed help and grace and things. Mm-hmm. And then other places where, they at no fault of their own, and they've just really been following
that's
to have
paid
that
for by
yeah,
insurance.
it's still paid for by insurance and doesn't require thousands of dollars.
But
really
maybe
nice
they have a little softer touch because they realize
because it's
you
a
do
different
have
circumstance. Right. Because they've been following what doctors have really strictly.
Sure.
And so that's and maybe we'll see that in the future. But that's something that I want to validate, and that you had to
Yeah, I had to, and I'll touch on some of the negatives and the enormous positives
that even came from that still.
Of course. So going in there, the first hours were brutal because you're starting to come off already,
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have anything. They have it all. They have all your bottles, all your bags, all your everything. And then you're realizing, okay, I don't have my own room. How am I going to get on with somebody when I want to die myself? And oh, they're really, it's a nice place, but not, it's worse than a cheap hotel, okay? It's not even like, it's hospital bed, like emergency room type. So you've got your beds and very minimal everything, and you've not got a closet, you just have shelves because you can't have doors, which means your bathroom in your room doesn't have a door, and you don't even get a long curtain to the floor because they need to see your legs at all times. And so no privacy. And even if you want your room locked, they have to lock it, because the only reason we wanted our room locked, me and my roommate, was because we were sharing the floor with geriatrics, which I love them to death, but man, it would have been nice to detox without without needing to worry about, you know, who's going to hit who, or who's going to pee on who, or who's going to take the phone out of my hands, or but again, yeah, they gave us a lot to smile about too. But it was extra, maybe, and they were overloaded, so it just was what it was. That's not the norm. It got interesting. We'll get to that later, maybe on a live, but but they admitted to that. One of their mistakes was I did not get my luggage that they have to go through back to my room until late that night, and that should have been done with the first hour, and they know that. They know that that is your connection to your people, to your home, to your pictures. I got about half my luggage, and they kept the rest down there. I assumed I'd have time to read and do journaling, I guess. And that I would be able to look cute. No. So they kept some of my clothes and some of my belongings. But they were gracious in making sure they put the letters from Rex and our kids and the pictures, and let me have one of my journals. And I could tell that they made some effort in that. Yeah. So I had I had just enough to put stuff on one shelf. And it's like I laid down, and if you want to know how hard that is, I called Rex and said, like in hour 5, 6, it was just getting dark. I was tired of my luggage. I was dealing with a lot, but also alone, and because I wasn't introduced to my group yet, and they were out having dinner and stuff, so I was alone, but not really alone because geriatrics, and I was on the phone, which was in the middle of the hall, which a cute little older woman wanted to have a conversation with me and the person on the phone, and I'm crying, and I'm looking at the nurses like, can you at least let me have a phone call, and they kind of picked up on that. I called Rex and I said, get me out of here, and I wasn't kidding. And Rex got really worried, called one of my doctors, and they said, if you take her out now, she will not wake up. She will not be there in the morning. If you take her home with what they just took her off of, without their monitors and their medications that help, and their doctors, she will not make it to morning. And so Rex shut right up and was like, yeah. So I know this is going to be the hardest thing you've probably ever gone through, more than your pain, but you're going to stay, sorry.
It was really conflicted, and
yeah.
I'm sure that people
he wanted
to
just make it better, but he couldn't.
We know that a lot of what people's stories go through and the pain that they're experiencing sometimes does maybe deal with abuse or abusive.
Sure.
And we know that whether it's full-out intervention or if it's voluntary kind of thing that's going on and family and friends are involved, how much of a conflict that it is, right? Because it doesn't feel You can't go off your feeling. It doesn't feel like
No,
you're
and
doing the right thing. You know you're doing the right
No,
thing and
it's
helping.
very
but
hard.
Yeah, very hard.
But I decided. I'm the one that gave the
Yeah.
idea that I wanted
That's
to
right.
go.
Yeah.
And I decided after they came and talked to me, this is what it's about. Now, did they give details? No. I often am like, they could have told me they're going to cut my brand new clothes up and my brand new bra and everything. But at the same time, that might have been something that I would have been like, no, never mind, and walked out. So I'm glad they didn't. You know?
And also real quick with this is that you started recognizing without having conversations with me about it that at least one of the medicines was making things worse legitimately, and I
You mean before we called?
before we went,
Yeah, I was talking about the day we went in and they were explaining what would. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I at that point as we were going in, I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't tell the difference between, like you were saying, that the baseline myself, where you know, is this pain of her other, you know, real condition, and so
I knew enough to know that
we both agreed on that, right?
there's some meds at play.
Yeah, we needed to get that to that baseline so that we could take best take care
I
of
told
it.
Rex, I think I need to go, and he immediately got on the phone with the nurses line that's through insurance, and they said, yeah, this is available, and it's not just make that call if you feel like you need to. It's not just for people that have addictions that are outside of pain, or you know
exactly.
or drugs that you are buying and selling out on the streets. It's for you as well. It's gonna be tough, of course. Are you tough? Hell yeah, do it if you need to. So that night, luckily my bed was by a window, and so I was able to see trees, and I had a tree right in my window, and I was able to see the sky, and I didn't want to talk to anyone. I was suffering immense and different suffering, and then on top of my pain I could start feeling real quick my real pain kind of come out again. And so that part I was happy. It was like, okay, now I'm already you know. And a bird landed on this tree by my window. And it was right before I just kind of closed my eyes and was just like, I want to die. No, I don't. I want to die. And then it decided, oh, but that windowsill is back, you know, and it just hopped from the tree, hopped and flew and landed right on the windowsill of my window. And right away I felt like that was my brother just saying, you're not alone. And I had a really good cry, and that was really needed. And that bird just sat there for so long. And not long after that, the head nurse came in and she said, your husband called in again. And he wants to know that you got your luggage, because he was not happy about that. And we are so sorry. Here's your luggage. And she says, boy, do you have people that love you. And she said, I know you're going. There's something that's harder than you've already walked through, and I cannot imagine. They treated me a little bit different when we were alone and we were talking one-on-one. Mm-hmm. Never in our groups, which I would not have had any different. She shared a little bit about her experience. Many of them that work there have had a past with their own addictions, and that felt good. But then the most beautiful thing, God put me exactly where I needed to be and with who I needed to be rooming with. And she had been there for months and needed to be there for more months. And she was older and old enough to kind of be a mom to me. And she knew where I was at in myself, you know. And my back was to her. I made sure of that, because I'm like, when my roommate comes in, I am not I will see you tomorrow, maybe. And she just came up and gently put her hand on my shoulder and just gently rubbed me and said, my name is, and I know that you're going through the worst hell you can imagine. And the only thing I want to say is that I'm your roommate. I'm getting ready for bed, and I'm right here next to you. And I'm just 4 feet away in my bed. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to be watching you. And that everything's going to be okay. And something about her, just like, how are you making me calm? You've got something in you that's just, you're just an angel, Yeah. And she calmed me down, and next day I woke up and she was, so I didn't know I was rooming with the life of the hospital. They loved her. Mm. She knew every staff member. And I got her. And she just was like, ready for breakfast? But not, if you don't want breakfast, that's totally fine. But if you're ready for breakfast and it might do you a little good, do you want to just walk and look? And she's like, I'm going to tell you, don't worry, I'm not leaving your side. And she didn't. Mm. And I lost her number. Mm. And so for years I've been in pain over that, but I know I'm meeting again. Yeah. That quickly became one of the best experiences of my life. They found out I also had mono in the middle of it, which after detox, my doctors just didn't really, they're like, no you don't. I said, run the test, because that's what the doctor told me to tell him. If they don't believe you, tell them run the test, and I did. So I had that on top of everything else. And but other than that, I met angel after angel after angel after angel, and I got to know why on a very, very, very personal, intimate level, with my group and then groups that we met up with throughout the day on the breaks that we had outside. It was a fenced-in little place we could go outside, but it was outside. And we got to meet up in the lunchroom and when we were exercising, and the only time that was just my group was, I think there was 3 to 4 sessions we went all through together with different counselors a day. It was grueling. You from 7 a.m. to 10. Go, 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 and so I was with just my group, which had about 7, 8 of us. And there's a little tiny bit of rotating, not much, where we're telling each other the hardest, most intimate moments of our lives. And it felt like we've met before, and I'm fine with, and we were so careful with each other, so much respect for each other. And I love the diversity. So my roommate, older than me, we had different nationalities, different ages, way different backgrounds. And here in Utah, I felt like that was so refreshing for me to just sit with people of all beliefs. I could not believe who I was blessed to be, to go on that one of my hardest journeys with. And to hear how they got to drinking or got on drugs, boy, that humbled me. Quickly and intensely. And I say this often, I've never felt such a concentration of love and of spirits working, like almost heaven met a place. And if you think that you have any right to judge someone who's on the streets, who doesn't quite know where they belong, who's drinking, drug seeking, you can think what you want, you can do. But if you think that you have a right to open your mouth or treat them differently, you're sorely mistaken. You don't know them at all. And, you know, whenever I think about the chronic pain community and the fight that we're going through with what we deserve as far as pain relief, it's never without the thought of the pain relief they deserve and why they turn to something that can numb it, because we're failing them to. And they're a whole nother reason why we chose chronic pain and suffering. Because if we're the only ones suffering, go check yourself in. You will not come out the same person. But that was such a heavily spiritual experience. Again, I seen my Rex when he came to pick me up, and I just was like, I can breathe again. And then I had a moment of, I can't breathe as I'm walking out, you know, from these people that I've known more than these days and more than this life. Like, you know, it's just so strange. And whenever we had a success, we'd want to tell each other first. It just pretty damn incredible.
Yeah,
so I forgave them for their beds and their curtain that wasn't even cute.
And then forgetting the clothes.
Yes, and forgetting my luggage late. And if you're gonna have a curtain, make it cute. You know,
Yeah.
I could deal with stuff like that. If you're gonna have a bed that's 4 inches thick, a mattress, you can make it cute. There's no reason. Although they had amazing food, and the chef there was just, oh my word, I've not seen a chef take so much pride in feeding people that truly needed it. Like he got his job on different levels. And
he's taking care of them and beyond just feeding.
Exactly. It was like a mother and a father feel when their child has their little bellies full and they're like, it's so yummy.
Yeah.
You know, he felt that way, and oh my word, when we were happy, that's all he needed. And then I gotta say about the nurses and the doctors and the I guess they're kind of the counselors, but they're also kind of security guards and stuff that would take us around. We never ever traveled without someone with us. And man, they're incredible human beings. They loved hard and they were hilarious. They helped everything be digestible and even joyful, you know. But so after that, we went to another pain management, and that's kind of where CRPS started coming into being talked about. And they're like, we need more time, because it's not just, oh, here's these symptoms, check.
Yeah.
They have to also rule out other things. So it's complicated in the way it presents. And because I'm me, it's extra hard. And they're like, but it's in the head. And CRPS is a limb disease. Oh, no, it's not. Shh. You know, not just anyway. So it took longer. I think all doctors now agree I've been diagnosed later than I should have been, and that's unfortunate, because you want to catch CRPS quickly. And you're going to get a better response and even go into remission better if you catch it early. In that one, I was kicked out. Not anything to do with meds. I just said no to a procedure I was uncomfortable with, that he wanted to do very quickly in a couple of days. And I was getting very vague information about what it was. All I knew is it was something he was going to go in from the front, and it didn't make sense to me, because I know where my pain is, and I just said I don't feel comfortable. And the next day, I think it was, they said we no longer accept you as a patient, and they gave us a referral to a couple of places. Another one I went to.
Kind of like that we've helped you as much Not
If you're not, no,
not so much a kick out, more of a we've helped you to the degree.
See,
of
and
which
Rex can think what he wants. Absolutely, it
you
was.
felt.
I did not do a procedure. That should have not been anything that should have had me dismissed as a patient.
That's true.
I couldn't. Matter of fact, we begged. We're like, why can't you talk to us? What do you mean? What do you mean? Is there not? If you're willing to send us to another, give us a referral, then, well, that means we're not really, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If it's not drug seeking, or if it's not, I'm trying to fake, then you wouldn't be referring me and saying, hey, she's got this serious thing. So yeah, absolutely. And it's okay for me to say that.
Yeah.
There's doctors that make bad mistakes because they're making bad decisions, and they're really trying to push people in, and that's I'm not going to. You've heard me say I've been appreciative of all my doctors, nurses, and even there for what they did. They were the first ones that caught CRPS.
Yeah, because by this time
Yes.
you had been formally diagnosed.
Yes,
with
they were comfortable at that point to say CRPS. No more than that, because there's type 1 and 2, which I had to kind of learn about myself. Let me quickly mention, we thought we chose one of the best places, and they, I think, met with me once or twice, is all. And it didn't matter that I said, hey, I've not only detoxed, because I've detoxed myself off things with doctor's help, but from home. But I've walked in a hospital and been locked behind doors and detoxed that way too. So that doesn't really match with somebody that's drug seeking, So not only that, my impeccable, which we've kind of talked about with our pharmacist, and he's like, you couldn't get a more golden. There's just no, I just, if anything, I'm too careful, and I don't get enough pain relief because I'm always scared, and it shouldn't be that way. Really quick, I'm going to just mention the last two places. We went in one, he pretty much called me a drug seeker. Rex came out of his skin like I've never seen him. He just, not this woman. You will not this woman. And even then, the manager of that office called us in. She apologized. She said, I can tell that's not you. And just kind of, we had a really spiritual talk too, just very. And so, but anyway, we decided to go to the one that I'm with but not with now, and that is only because my nerves made that decision so I agreed to let them do more procedures on me. My first experience with them, I love the doctor that we have now. I haven't seen him for a while, but that's because of my condition. He came in, he's like, okay, this is different, but can I try something? And I was getting Botox also at the time, seeing how that was. I had been taking injections, all different types for migraines to see if that would help. Oh my word. It's to the point now, in so many years and so many procedures and so many meds and so many treatments and so many everything, that they just are at a point where they're like, we know. And that takes a lot of time. So if you have a brand new condition, I'm sorry to say this, you're going to need to be patient. You need to be patient. They need to see that. They need to see that you're willing, and I know you're tired, and I know you just want solutions, and you want to be done, and you want to be comfortable. It's not how it goes. It's just not. And I don't see that. I don't see a solution yet for that. But so the first thing he did, and Rex had to turn away. Like, he can't watch me get Botox because it's so much. And he knows it's going right into my nerves, and then right into my temple, right in the back of my skull, all over my head, and he's just seeing blood drip. And he can't. And he's like, I don't know how you sit there and deal with that. And I'm like, well, it's better than my pain. Is it better when she sticks a needle into the nerves that cause pain? Maybe not, but I know that's, they're trying to do as much as they can. So that was, then all of a sudden our insurance just was like, we're not covering that anymore. So even though that was helping probably, a good 25%. Well, that's a massive. I rarely get that. And they took that away. So, but Faber says, can I try something? He comes in, not with the smallest needle ever. I'll say that. And he says, I want to try something. So this time, instead of burning, we're freezing nerves. And I'm like, sure.
Yeah.
And I've gone through enough at this point that I know that I can breathe through a good amount. And Rex is next to me, and I remember he's kind of always like this, because you want to pay attention to the doctor and, face. He sees that needle. He says, I'm going to put the needle between your eye and your brow bone.
Through what?
Now, I've been cut there, which he said it looked impressive, by the way. So I've been cut in this eyelid 3 times, and I know, you're thinking it too. It looks good. But he mentioned that scar, it's you cannot see it unless I point it out. But it's not just my ability it's not just my body healing and still being strong. My doctor that did all those surgeries, those tumor resections, he's a plastic surgeon as well. He knows what he's doing, so thank him more than anyway, so Rex, but I'm like, I've been cut there a lot, but that's been with me not there. So, but I said, okay, and he's just so happy, isn't he? And he's so just like, so I'm like, ooh, I like your attitude. And ooh, yeah, and he's so funny. So I'm mush already. Okay, you do what you want. And Rex, I see his body shift back, and he's like, okay, I just heard what you just said you were going to do, and I'm going to just stare straight. Did you ever look at it? Because I had to hold still. So the needle goes in between my eyeball and my brow bone, and I'm just sitting there. And I'm like, okay, that was a bit uncomfortable, but I've got it. Well, he hits I told you I have a lot of scar tissue, and he hits that. And I'm hearing glass crunching in my head. And it's loud. And I'm like, and I start feeling shaking. He's trying to get the needle through it to a nerve. And the glass crunching is insane. I'm just like, so I'm feeling shaking, and I'm like, what? And so I said, what's the glass crunching? And he goes, that's your nerve, that's your scar tissue. That's what it sounds like. And he said, and that's how hard it can get. So he had to really shove to get into that nerve, but he was able to finally get to one of the nerves, and he kind of put that freezing. Mm-hmm. And I remember saying, I feel a little different. It was enough for him to say, let's go ahead then. And what he was going to do is the ganglion nerve bundle that's connected to so many nerves, guys. So, and I only know that because of how it backfired. So that day, I was full blown having a flare up, and he was one of the only doctors that's seen it at its worst. And he came and looked at me, and I was in pre-op, and he's like, this is a good time to hit that, because I was burning up, and there's slight swelling when I burn up, and he's seen, because it started with my head, right? I don't know why I'm talking to the macrame on the wall. I'm so sorry. It's all good. I think that's what. Okay, thank you. Yeah. I didn't even realize. I'm so sorry. Anyway, so let me tell you. it's not just in my head, it's spread down one arm, and then it spread to another, and then spread to my hands, and now it's going down one leg. And it's brutal. It's just a disconnect between your brain and your nervous system, and it views the most minor things as big injuries. So he was able to see. It was my hands too, right, Rex, at that point? Because Rex was able to come back before. He pulled Rex out of the waiting room and he said, I need to explain how hard we're going to hit this. Yeah. He needed Rex to know. Yeah. Which, that was not his norm. I heard him talk to a lot of people before they went in. And he said, with what I'm seeing, and he was seeing my head, or my face, and both arms just flaring up. And he's seen how miserable I was, and he told Rex, I'm going to hit this extra hard because of what I'm seeing. So I go in, and again, I'm super hopeful. And we got home before the numbing wore off. Now, you've said you've seen me suffer. That day, how would you describe it? When the numbing wore off.
Oh, it was... in your teeth, you were talking about...
It was everywhere.
Yeah.
From here, every nerve.
Oh my gosh, that was terrible.
That was... Rex was... He had to call our kids. He could not believe. He was beside himself. He just... So when it wore off, what happens with my nerves, and too many people have seen it, they're like, oh, you tried playing. Oh, cute. You pissed me off.
Yeah.
And now I'm real ticked. So, and we called Faber, and he's in the middle of another procedure. But as soon as he got out, he immediately, Rex said, not only did it not work, this is the worst I've seen her. So I felt every nerve, and it went straight down my face. Every single nerve. I'm doing this side, but it's this side.
Yeah.
Screaming. So it's like having a toothache in every tooth. Front, top, bottom. My jaw, I thought my bones were going to break. It feels like they're going to break. It felt like my eye was going to pop. It went down my neck, and it wouldn't stop. It wouldn't stop. It wouldn't stop. He was like, he knew what meds I was on. He's like, have her take this. Nope. We kept calling him, and so there was an emergency medication called into the compound pharmacy, and nope. And, eventually, after hours and hours, my body just crashes, and I'll have pain in my sleep, but it just can't sustain any energy anymore. And they had to take shifts for over 24 hours babysitting me. So my daughter, when I went to sleep, was with me, and she said, you were just jerking. Your whole body was jerking the whole time you're sleeping. And, they don't...
Yeah.
And then I was throwing up, and that was for 2 days. And...
Well, we're just fed up with the fact that
it just was pure,
it's
pure
one
and
thing
utter pain,
not just,
and nothing really worked. Nothing,
yeah.
Boom.
I mean, it's one thing to know that society's not perfect with the options that they've got available, but when you're going and trying to have something help, and then it hurts,
mm-hmm.
you get to that point where you're so disillusioned to where you're like, okay, family doctor, we've at least established somewhat of a baseline. We knew that it wasn't going to be
mm-hmm.
where there wasn't going to be any medication management, so we've got that all kind of sorted.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is that we're at where we're at, and you've done an amazing job sharing a lot of detail of how extensive this has been. What's day-to-day like for you still right now, though?
Okay, so I don't have a pain, so that I scared him enough
mm-hmm.
to say I'm not comfortable doing any procedures on her for a while. And I really didn't like a lot of the meds that I was on because I couldn't, I wasn't Nelle. I couldn't think, I couldn't, so like I said before, and I've tried medical cannabis, and apparently that's not, and it made sense because we tried everything, and then I found out that doesn't really work so well for CRPS. And then you guys who have been with us for a while, you've been in ketamine with me, infusions,
right.
and they're fine until I wake up, and then my nerves, they're just, so we're still trying to figure that out.